Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 383 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. I'm Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and we have the full crew here this week, kicking things off with the owner of MTG Goldfish, Richard. Richard, how are you this fine Monday?
Hey Seth, finally recovered from one preview season, straight into more previews.
It never ends. It never ends. We're through the main set of Commander Legends 2. We have the precons coming up. We got Alchemy spoilers going on. Double Masters, I don't know, probably starts in a few days. Who knows? There's just always new Magic cards. We also have another co-host in Krim. Krim, how are you today?
I'm great. Just got back from Fanime, so gone to my first convention in a minute, and ready to continue spoiler season.
And that's going to be one of our big topics for today. So the big thing going on in the Magic world is really still Commander Legends 2. So now that we got the full main set, we want to give some overall thoughts, impressions on the set. There's also a few more cards. We've talked about a lot of them. There's a Commander Clash podcast coming up with like our top 10 cards, but there's a few cards we haven't really talked about that I think are interesting. So we want to talk about those. Also, there's a bit of Moto news about the set, some arena news about the set and about Alchemy. And then of course, we got some fish mail questions that have been piling up over the last couple weeks, so we'll get to some of those as well. Before we jump into it, a quick reminder that our show today is brought to you by Card Conduit, and we've been telling you about Card Conduit, a great way to sell your Magic collection, and their curated shipment service that lets you sell your valuable cards with a reduced service fee for a while now. As long as your cards have a retail value of $2 or more, you can send in as many as you want and still just pay a 5% service fee. And like with all of Card Conduit services, you don't got to sort your cards, you don't got to grade your cards, you get to skip over all those hassles and just safely package everything up and ship it out, and you'll even get a detailed report with the results. So you can check out Card Conduit's curated shipment option as a way to buy list cards with fast processing, optimized prices, and the low service fee of just 5%. And you can even get another 10% off by heading over to cardconduit.com/mtggoldfish. Card Conduit, they're the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. So thank you so much to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And let's talk a little bit of Commander Legends Battle for Baldur Gate. And before we get to these individual cards, we got the full main set. It's all out. We still got Commander Precon spoilers coming up over the next couple days, but I'm really curious where both of you are at with this set. Now that we got the full picture of this set, what's your initial reaction to what the set is, its power level, all that kind of stuff? What do you guys think about Commander Legends 2?
Oh boy. Okay, so I have some words about the set. At first, I was really excited. You know, there's some good stuff on there. There's Elder Brain, there's Altar of Baal, and then of course Intellect Devourer and Tasha, right? These are all cards that I think are pretty cool. And I think that it's totally fine to have sets where there's just maybe no cards for me to enjoy, right? But am I just I tweeted this out, but I feel like I might have been conditioned to power creep in that I feel like this set is a bust. It just doesn't seem that fun to me. I don't know D&D personally, right? So for me, I'm sure there's tons of flavor wins for people, and I'm happy that this is there for them. But when I look at this set personally, just from an outsider's perspective of like not knowing D&D, just typical Magic stuff, this seems like a huge bust. This is nowhere near the power level of Commander Legends 1. And I'm not talking like Hull Breach or anything like that. I'm talking about at the mid and the lower levels, right? Because Commander Legends 1 brought us the Will Cycle, which Chroma's Will, all those cards. You even had the Courts. There was tons of cool commanders of like different power levels. And it just felt like Commander Legends 1 gave a lot for everybody at all tiers of power level. And this set just feels like, I don't know, if there was a starter deck in 2022 or a pre-con that you could buy at Target, that's what this whole set feels like.
That may be a bit harsh. I mean, I see where Krim is coming from, right? I think the set comes down to the Elder Dragons. Like, all the dragons, I think, are actually pretty sweet. But then the drop-off is pretty high. The rest of the cards are kind of mediocre. And then white gets like a whole bunch of staples for some reason. So I can see where that's going, but I don't think that's bad. Like, I don't think we need to power creep the format every single time. I actually think the dragons are kind of power creepy in the sense that you hit and you snowball the game out of control, and like, do we need more of those kind of cards? But I think it's okay that we have kind of just like weird flavor cards, and you might have only a card or two for your deck. I think that's the way Commander should be played, but I don't know how it's going to sell product. So hopefully the draft portion carries it, but I think it's fine.
I think it's
I just don't like the
D&D
flavor,
portion.
right? Yeah, I don't know. I don't like the flavor of it. I'm not a D&D fan, so kind of
That's
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to try D&D, but yeah, like that's generally what I think is going to have to sell the set, right? The D&D part of it.
That's kind of where I ended up. I don't even think there's an argument that the power level is definitely lower than the first Commander Legends. I do think that, especially on the top end, that's a good thing. Like, I don't really want more Jeweled Lotuses, even like Jessica's Will, Hull Breacher. Those are cards that I don't think were healthy for the format. So I'm glad to see a set like this that isn't just gonna dump a bunch of broken cards out in there. And it even gives me a little hope that maybe Wizards, I don't know, has learned something, and the next Modern Horizon set will not have the most busted top end cards. So I think that's a good thing. But I also have really struggled with the flavor of the set because I'm not a D&D player. And part of what I really, really liked about the first Commander Legends is just all the MTG in jokes and like old characters coming back. You got another Kodama of the whatever tree. You got a new Akroma. There's all these like old Magic characters. So even cards I didn't care about were kind of interesting from a Magic player's perspective. I assume that the new Commander Legends is also like that, but you got to know D&D to get the in-jokes. I actually asked this on my Twitter, and a lot of D&D people were like, yeah, like there's a ton of cool stuff in here. If you know D&D, like this card having this mechanic makes so much sense, and it's so flavorful and cool, but I just don't know that. So I think I'm in the position where like, I don't know, the flavor of this set just isn't designed for me. It's designed for D&D players, not for like hardcore long-term Magic players. I do think the power level is, it's low, but I'm kind of with Richard, where I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, although I do wonder how well it's going to sell. Like, maybe a ton of D&D players buy it, and that's where it goes, but I'm not sure, like, I don't know. I don't know who's going to buy it for sure at this point.
It's not just like that the power level is low. It's also like, it just feels like, how a Forgotten Realms felt? Like it just felt lackluster. The mechanics themselves just don't feel that great, right?
But I
With
wonder,
a D&D set, I wish we had better dungeons. This would have been a set to improve your dungeons. Initiative seems kind of cool, but seems kind of lackluster here and there. I'm not sure. I mean, maybe that's how, just because like from what I do know of D&D, right? Roll for initiative. That's like one of the biggest things you hear all the time. I thought initiative would have been a pretty big player in something, right? On top of that, the design of some of the cards, like you think back to the last set, we had Obeka or Obika, I'm not sure. But yeah, you had Obika, you had, Sakashima, and you had the 9 mana spells, right? We're not just talking the Hull Breachers. We're not talking just Jessica's Will. We're talking about all the cool things like Encore. You've got all these creatures. You've got the Sphinx that gives you an additional upkeep. You've got Wrong Turn. You've just got cool and like interesting designs, right, on cards. These just feel like vanilla creatures.
Yeah, the mechanics suck. I think like that's it, right? Like who cares about initiative? You're like, I don't care about dungeons, right? And here's this mechanic I can only use if you're like pretty much going all out on dungeons. And then like background, is that even a mechanic? Right? Like now I get to put enchantments in my command zone. Like there's no new mechanic here to get us excited. So I can see like from a like mechanics perspective, it's like pretty lackluster, right? And then we have like more adventures for some reason. So like, I don't know. I think I agree with Krim on that.
I will say though, maybe some of that stuff really hits it out of the park for D&D players. Like, cause I think the flavor on that stuff, like the background stuff, even the initiative stuff, it is pretty D&D-y, so hopefully maybe there's a way they could have done it with the power level being more exciting, but I do think the flavor is good. I think one thing I would, I guess, criticize is a lot of the new legends just feel boring to me. Like, not even power level concern, because some of my favorite legends from the first Commander Legends were not especially strong. They were just really unique. We had like Blim, for example, was just really weird. Ergen, we had like Gore Murdlock, we had Hans Eriksson. These are not like top tier strong CDH commanders. They're just really unique designs. And I think we got a few of those in the new set, but really the number of them, I feel like is a lot lower than the first Commander Legend. So I don't know, low powered and maybe I don't know, just not super. It's not exciting to me. Commander Legends, the first one, when I saw those legends, it was just really exciting. This one, not to say it's bad or anything, but it just didn't excite me in the same way that the first one did. And I also wonder if it's partly the product of just getting so many sets. Like maybe when you're going from spoiler season to spoiler season, from set to set, maybe it's harder to be hyped for every single set. Maybe it's just not possible. Also, the reprints were kind of a dud, I think. The lands are good, but the first set had Mana Drain, it had Vampiric Tutor, it had Scroll Rack, it had all these like $100 cards that people were like, whoa, I gotta open this set to get these cards. The new one, it's got lands and then like a couple of
Discovery.
25. And those are going to crash to like $5 or something because they were mostly expensive just because there weren't that many of them out there because they hadn't been reprinted before. We didn't get those big high-end staple reprints either. So
Like, what are the
And
good
also
reprints?
the lands, which should
Okay, so
already be in the decks, by the way,
We
like
have
the pre-con decks.
the Battle Bond lands. We have Reflecting Pool. We have Kindred Discovery, Blade of Selves. Is that
Yeah,
it?
and then you.
that's
I mean, you have some pretty decent stuff at the uncommon area, like Swiftfoot Boots, and things
Nature's
like that.
Nature's Lore, Swiftfoot Boots. So there's a few good uncommons, but as far as higher rarity stuff, I guess Bramble Sovereign was actually like $20, but that's another card. The problem I have with the reprints in the first set were like legit staples. Demonic Tutor or Vampire Tutor, Mana Drain, stuff that everyone's playing in Commander. The good reprints in this set, Blade of Selves, Kindred Discovery, Bramble Sovereign, they were cards that were actually kind of expensive, but they were just expensive because it was like, oh, it's printed once in Battle Bond, so the price just kept creeping up. But I've never seen anyone play Bramble Sovereign. I've played it a couple times in Panharmonicon decks, but it's not really a staple, so the prices are going to drop. So yeah, the lands are good, but otherwise, I don't know. I was expecting more, especially with the overall power level not being like super high. I was thinking maybe the way they would use it was like, hey, here's a Demonic Tutor, here's a Mana Drain, like here's these high-end reprints, but they didn't really do that either. So I don't know, it's a weird set to me. It does look fun though. I think limited will be good.
Right now, after we've seen everything, launch day, are you buying a box or would you just buy a few singles?
I mean, I'm a degenerate when it comes to opening boxes, so I would probably still crack a box, but I think that I know that that's incorrect. But I love cracking packs.
I'm gonna go to the draft tables and ask for the common and uncommon white card draw spells. And be like, yo, I'm done with the set.
I've got every Commander Legends 2 card I need.
I mean, I think realistically that's it, right? Like I think I don't need the lands, right? And I don't want dragons, so I think I actually just want the common and uncommon. So yeah, it's a kind of a pass for me, right? On Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned all the cards I want, which is a total of 4 cards, and like that's a lot for me. I think that's great. If I can get 4 cards to play, I'm very happy. But it's just unfortunate there's nothing else in the set that makes me want to build something, and I don't know. It's again like none of us here really play or love D&D, right? So I mean, that's I don't know. Let us know, I guess, in the comments or tweet us or something like that. Like, did they nail it with initiative? Because I'm not really sure. I initiative seems lackluster to me as I look at it more.
There's way more than 4 cards I want from the set. I think you guys are maybe a little lower on it than I am. Like, there are some neat cards in there that I could imagine throwing in my deck, but just for me, comparing it to like the first Commander Legends is where it really doesn't look that great, I guess. I was expecting another Commander Legends, the original, and instead this is more Adventures in the Forgotten Realm, but for Commander. Because AFR was like pretty low power DLC. Too. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. The money grab DLC. Don't get it. I mean, so we're going to find out how strong. Like, we can't call for like not power creep and then poo-poo every set that's not powerful, right? So I don't know what's going to win out here. I don't know. I hope draft carries it. If it's a flop product, I don't know what Wizards will do. Will they just turn up Commander Legends 3 to like, you know, replace the entirety of the format with like 8 Docksides? Like, so I don't know, but
Dockside could have been in here, by the way.
The difference between this and the original is we have so many Commander products now, right? So I can see why they don't want to load this up, right? Because we have the Warhammer precons coming up. Like every standard set has like a bunch of Commander staples, and then double masters. So I can see why they don't want to load up on like, you know, they don't want to use all their firepower on this set. I could see that. Like they're saving Dockside for Secret Lair or double masters or whatever. So I can see that.
Like, yeah, I mean, I guess, but I don't know. You got to have some kind of cool design, right? I think the main thing here is just because this is a D&D set and the dungeons all sucked from AFR, right? So, and nothing
they
here is
the dragon
improved.
part. The
dragons are sweet.
So this is dragons. Like, this is a cons block. This is Dragon's Maze. Oh, okay, dope. I don't know. I mean, yeah, the flavor is just like there's a lot of flavor here. There's a lot of flavor here, and you know what? I'm happy for the people that can enjoy that though. So that's great.
And I would rather have non-broken Commander Legends. So I am celebrating that. I'm celebrating that Wizards toned it down, but maybe they went a little too far. Well, I think I'd put it that way. Like, maybe the next one hits the happy medium where the power level is just right. Because I think the first one was too strong. This one, maybe not strong enough, but maybe that means Commander Legends 3 is just going to be the perfect set in every way.
I mean, I feel like Commander Legends, outside of like maybe Hull Breacher, was it really that broken?
I mean, Hull Breacher, Jeweled Lotus, partner pairs that are like kind of dominating CDH, like Carrick and Shakashima, and like that was pretty busted. I view it similarly to Modern Horizons 2.
It's powerful. I believe that, but I don't know if it was busted.
What do you think, Richard?
I think it's the most powerful set for Commander, and I think that makes it busted. Like, I see what Krim wants more power, so he doesn't think it's busted, but I think it is the most powerful Commander thing we've gotten, and I would rather
we don't need more power.
Do without
I think like if it falls short of the first one, that's fine, but not this short, right? Like, this is like very far. Like, the gap between the two, as you'd mentioned earlier, is huge.
Like, I want to roll back Magic design by like 10 years. I don't like power because we don't play any games anymore. We just snowball out of control, and like, why answer anything? You just present your own combos. So I would actually rather not have every creature single-handedly win the game and be difficult to remove, can't be countered, hexproof, whatever, right? Like, I'd rather just have some beaters. You remove it, good job, and then you play another one, and then you fight back and forth. So I'd rather roll back.
Isn't that Baldur's Gate?
No, because you get hit by these dragons, the game is over, right? So it's still that.
Sure.
Like, it's still it's just it snowballs at 7 mana, right? But it's still one of those you cannot get hit by these.
Well, if for 7 mana, I want that, right? Like, I think you got to get that.
The problem is you can get 7 mana on turn 4, like, easy peasy, right? And like, if you did not draw your 4 ramp pieces, then you just lost, right? So,
is the problem with that though the 7 drops or the ramp? like I don't know. I feel like once you're getting to 7 or 8 mana, yeah.
That's why land destruction is fine.
I don't know. I kind of feel like really push 7 and 8 mana cards are fine with me. Like, once you're up to the Crater Hoof range of like Commander, like, who cares? Like, who cares? You're gonna play something busted with that amount of mana, whether it's a dragon or a Crater Hoof or an Avacyn or some sort of ultimatum or whatever Genesis Wave. Like, who does it really? Interaction, does it really make a difference which one it is? That's why I think it's silly that like Coalition Victories banned or whatever. Like, seriously, like
there's no shortage of degeneracy when it comes to win cons, right? There's a lot there in Magic. My thing here is like, like, just look at the set underneath the dragons, and there's nothing. For a very what are you gonna do? Font of Magic me? Okay, you got it.
So
that's not bad. Actually.
So
oh, get out of here, Richard. That card is caca.
So we've talked about a lot of Commander Legends cards between last podcast, upcoming Commander Clash podcast, but there's a handful of cards that I think are kind of interesting that we haven't talked about yet, and I kind of want your guys' opinions on. So let's go through a few cards. Richard, why don't you guide us through a few more Commander Legends spoilers?
All right. As a reminder, you can find them all on mtgpreviews.com. So let's start off with Blood Money. 5 black, so 7 mana sorcery. Destroy all creatures. For each non-token creature destroyed this way, you create a tapped treasure token.
Is this card good? Is this card a good card? It's a 7 mana Wrath, which at first makes me think, okay, that's not very good. Like, Decree of Pain I know we still play it on occasion, but it's a card that I used to play way more a few years ago, and I consistently find myself playing it less and less because it's so much mana. This is in that same range, but it also gives you a huge reward. Just like Decree of Pain draws you a ton of cards, this is going to make a ton of treasure tokens, which I guess you could say maybe this isn't a Wrath. It's a Brass's Bounty with the upside of blowing up a bunch of creatures, but you're really playing it to make a bunch of treasures in your treasure deck. How good is Blood Money?
Oh, so I like Blood Money. It's medium. It is very expensive. It's making tap treasures, so I can't sweep the board, redeploy, right? So that's pretty big. So this is a deck that this is going to really only go into a deck that just wants the treasures. So I think something that's maybe running Revel in Riches, that's about it, really. Other than that, I mean, I'm not loading Blood Money into all my decks that have black mana because I would actually rather play Decree of Pain.
Yeah, it's a synergy piece. If you need like big mana, like you're exsanguinating people or something like that, right? Or if you need the treasures like Marionette Master, Revel in Riches, you play this, but yeah, not in a generic deck. Like 7, like Toxic Deluge, 3 mana. Blood Money, 7, right? Like this is like nigh impossible to cast, and you don't even get treasures for token creatures. So I think it's a synergy piece, not just a generic Wrath that you can get value with.
I think that's where I'm at too. Like if you really care about treasures or maybe the ramping, then it's probably good. But in a random deck, I'm not cutting my Damnations or Toxic Deluges for this. 7 mana is just that's a decent amount, and it could be too slow in a lot of situations.
What about the next tier? Let's say you're playing Crux of Fate. Do you play Crux of Fate or
yes.
Blood Money?
That's Crux. Where it's in the conversation. I'm kind of mad on Crux unless I'm a dragon deck. Like once I'm already casting it for 5 or 6 mana, your Wrath, then I'm kind of like, well, it's already expensive, so then I might as well just Decree of Pain. I might as well just Blood Money. So I think that if we're going to tier rank Black Wraths, this would be in the next group. I don't know how I would rank it. It's probably behind Decree of Pain in a generic deck. Every deck is going to be happy to draw a bunch of cards. I guess every deck's also going to be fine with having more mana, but unless you actually have treasure synergies, I think I would rather Decree of Pain and refill my hand than Blood Money and have extra mana.
And Decree of Pain has the cycling option, right? So that's nice. Whereas this is just always going to be a hard 7 mana. So.
All right. Next up, Intellect Devourer, 3 in a black. Oh. It's a 2/4 creature horror. First ability, Devour Intellect. When it ETBs, each opponent exiles a card from their hand until it leaves. Body Thief, you may play land cards and cast spells from among cards exiled with it. If you cast a spell this way, you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color.
First off, look at how cute this little guy is. He's adorable. He's like a brain with arms. Yeah. Which is what I will feel like I have while I'm sitting there casting this, because it's going to be sweet. Now, yes, opponent will be exiling. So this will have its synergies in like decks like Umbrus, and it's a horror, so naturally it'll go in there. But I do also like this because, I mean, you can play whatever, right? This includes lands, and now everybody mocks me for not getting past my 3rd land. But when I do, this will help me get to lands like, 5, 6, and 7, or something to get from their hand. I mean, I don't know. I like that it just gives me, it's like I don't know, what's that discard spell you always play, Richard? But like, I guess I get it on top of a body.
It's like basically Siphon Mind.
Yeah, there it is, Siphon Mind. There it is.
You draw from your opponent's decks instead of your deck, right?
Yeah.
Well, even worse than that, because you're drawing from your opponent's hand, right? So that's the one thing I don't like about this card. Right. Is if you've ever seen, that makes it very much like Siphon Mind in the sense that when you resolve a Siphon Mind, your opponents are going to try to discard their worst card. So the only downside of this card is you are getting the 3 worst cards from your opponent's hands, essentially. I don't think that makes it bad. It's still essentially ETB draw 3, and you can play lands off of it, and you could blink it, or Panoramic on it, or Yarok it. Like, there's definitely synergies in the horror synergy. So I think it's a cool card, but I expect the cards you actually get with this, most of the time, are not going to be great.
Oh, no. They don't need to be. You just need to send the message that I'm here to bother your hand. And the thing here
the message will be sent. Yes. The message is strong.
As I said, the brain will be huge. I will be sitting there with the most massive, brain pulsing from my skull.
The best part of this card is it's like a crab brain thing, right? Like the art is crazy.
It's like
the art is sweet.
It's like the liquor from Resident Evil, but but like just its head is all of its body.
There's our Resident Evil secret lair. We need one of these.
I honestly, seriously,
All right.
we do.
Next up, Lae'zel's Acrobatics, 3 in a white at instant. Exile all non-token creatures you control, then roll a d20. Return those creatures to the battlefield under their owner's control at the beginning of the next end step if your result is 1 to 9. If your result is 10 to 20, return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control, then exile them again. Return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So basically double blink. 10 to 20, 1 to 9, single blink.
Isn't this card busted in blink decks? Like, people already play Eerie Interlude or Ghostway or whatever. Like, this card seems insane to me. Like, if you high roll, and it's not even that high of a roll, it's like 10 to 20, so you're, 50% plus to actually hit it? Like, you're re-triggering all your ETBs, and then you're blinking your board, and then you're getting it back. Plus, if they stay away until end of turn, so it's also Wrath protection. I feel like people are sleeping on this card, and this card is like sneakily one of the strongest cards in the set if you're in some sort of blink style archetype.
It is a very sweet blink effect. It is obviously 1 mana more than Eerie Interlude and whatnot, but like, I think that's fine if you like chancing it. I think that's it's like a fun card. I think it's a very fun card, just because of that RNG aspect, the die roll. But otherwise, I mean, yeah, it's very good. I think it's probably one of the most actually like the most powerful cards that isn't one of the dragons from the set.
Yeah, Eerie Interlude's usually the best card in your deck when you're playing it. So at 1 mana more and 50% chance of getting like 2 Eerie Interludes, I think this is insane. So I think it's not as hype because, I don't know, people just don't like blink decks and you have a million ways to blink. But this is like 4 mana, draw 10 or something, right? Like based off all your ETBs. Yeah. So I think Seth is right. I think this card's insane.
Do you play it in your mono white decks, Richard? Is this like blinking Spirited Companion and stuff? Like,
so I usually play like a single Ephemerate or something like that, right? Should I play a single Eerie Interlude or Lae'zel's Acrobatics?
Maybe.
Because
pretty much
Ephemerate acts as a protection spell, which you can hold up and like, for 1 mana protect as well, right? Without, getting value.
Right.
Yeah.
This cannot do that, right? This you need explicitly get value. So it's going to depend on how many blink creatures you have.
Yeah, I think that's right. If it's just Spirited Companion, it's probably not enough. You probably need more than that. But if you can stack up a few Spirited Companions, then maybe it's whether your Sun Titan has a good ETB. There's that random, ramp creatures that catch up ramp creatures. So
yeah, all your ramp creatures, you're gonna re-trigger Welcoming Vampire. So I think this probably has a shot in just like a generic white deck if you're playing around the weenie theme.
I mean, it like the thing here is, assuming that you don't have like Teferi's Protection, this is probably like probably one of the best blink spells you can probably add, right?
This returns end step. Yeah. Yeah, so
so it gets around to Wrath or Farewell or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, me too.
Next up, we have Fraying Line. 4 generic mana artifact. When a ETBs put a rope counter on target creature you control, at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player may pay 2. If they do, they put a rope counter on a creature they control. Otherwise, exile Fraying Line and each creature without a rope counter on it. Then remove all rope counters from all creatures.
So I had to add this to the list because I had to ask Richard about it, because I always associate you with these 4 mana colorless rats. Like, you play more boom piles than anyone I have ever seen. Is this in the conversation even for being removed, that colorless removal slot, or is it just way too inconsistent and janky?
So if you don't want a wrath, you just pay 2 mana and then you rope up your creature, right? And it protects it and delays the wrath. So like, how is this a wrath in any way?
It's not.
Yeah, I guess maybe it's a tax effect more than a wrath.
Like, you have to rely on turn order, right? Like, the person going next, you hope they want to wrath. And then the person going after them is the one that doesn't want the wrath, so they will trigger it. But this only hits creatures. This is like a lot of hoops to jump through to do something that like barely works. And probably because it's in your opponent's control, so I don't think this will work unless you can team up with the buddy. So I actually don't even consider this like a playable card in any sense.
So just bad then. Maybe flavorful, but not very good.
Like, what are you hoping happens? Like, you rope a creature, everyone else doesn't, and you get a creature, or like everyone ropes everything and you've accomplished nothing. Like, what is the expected outcome here?
I think you got to be hoping you can like politic your way into it. Be like, okay, I got Fraying Line. If I play this, will you not pay for it, Richard? So we can get rid of Tomer stuff or whatever. Like, I think that's the best case scenario. But even that seems like a lot of work to actually have it turn out the way you want it to.
Yeah, like,
that's
let's
probably
say you're playing blue. Would you play this over Fade Away? I think I would take my chances with Fade Away.
Okay, all right. I don't know about that. Fade Away is still not really good. Yeah,
it's no floodgate, I'll tell you that.
I don't know. I mean, the only reason why I would ever want to play this is just to meme with I'm roping. That's it. That, like, other than that, I don't know. Is this actually good? No, probably.
I mean, you got Boompile and Nev's disc, right? And then you got the Exile one that's super expensive, that's in Historic. I can't remember. Perilous Vault. So I think this is pretty low tier, even for like colorless sweepers, and it's not even a full sweeper. So yeah, all right, let's go with bad.
All right, Monster Manual, 3 and a green artifact. It's an adventure card. So the adventure part is zoological study, 2 and a green sorcery. Mill 5 cards, then return a creature card milled this way to your hand. And then the second part is 1 and a green tap. You may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield, and that's 4 mana to cast.
Oh, so the question I have for both of you for this one is, how much does being an adventure card improve this? Because this is very similar to like Quicksilver Amulet, for example, or you could even argue an Elvish Piper in artifact form. Those are cards that see play in very specific decks, but you don't just jam into any deck. Is the like mill some cards in cycle part, is that enough to make this into a green staple? I had a few people ask me that. Is this a new green staple? Should I just put this in every one of my green decks? Assuming you're green, you're gonna have some big creatures. Do you think it's that kind of card, or is this more of a Quicksilver Amulet where it's like, okay, I'm playing Maya of the Anima and I'm full of big creatures and my whole gimmick is trying to cheat these huge things into play, so I'm gonna play Monster Manual?
Oddly enough, I think that the mill is nice. I think that it curves nicely. It fills the slot in where you may have probably not had anything, right? I think I kind of like that. We've already learned before. I won't undervalue like what an adventure card will do, because I mean, at the end of the day, Stomp was just a shock, right? But it was a shock attack that could also become a 4/3. So I don't know. I think this is good.
I mean, it's 6 mana to deploy something from your hand. So whatever you're casting needs to be a lot more expensive. So I think you gotta be full on big monsters, right? Like, if you drop in a 4-drop, like, this is not good, right? Like, even a 6-drop is questionable. It needs to be like a 10-drop or something, right?
I mean,
but that's not its only
upside
option.
Of repeatability too.
Right.
Like, the first one's going to be 6, but then after that, it starts. If you do 2, then it's 8 mana, and if you do 3, then it's 10 total mana. So that
means you had to have like 3 8-drops in hand or something, right? Like,
yeah. But then you find one with zoological study, so that finds you your big thing to fund. Like, I mean, I don't think it's a staple. I don't think I put it in any deck. I do think if you're someone who's playing Elvish Piper or Quicksilver Amulet and you're in green, I think this is the best version of this effect now. So if you want this effect, I think Monster Manual is the way to go. But I don't think it's so pushed that I'm like, every green deck, I'm going to slot this into it.
Okay, so Quicksilver Amulet is
I don't think
colorless,
it's an auto include.
Right? So my question to you, let's say you're a Quicksilver Amulet deck and you're in green. Is it better to play Monster Manual or just play more ramp?
Like and cut the amulet?
Yeah, cut the amulet. Like, instead of trying to cheat your creatures out, you just play more ramp, so you can consistently get to the right amount of mana to just like hard cast your creatures.
I think the problem, like, with just getting more ramp is that I mean the nice thing about Amulet is that you just have the reduced costs, and it depends on the deck, right? If you're just like loaded with mono 8+ drops, I think you would have to ramp a lot to like make it so that Quicksilver Amulet isn't as good.
Yeah, and you can put the creatures into play instant speed, which is a nice
I guess
little
that's true.
upside. We saw that
Gets
in some
around
of our
counter
games where
spells.
it's like, who wants to attack you when you leave the mana up? Because they're afraid you're going to drop some huge thing into play. So I think I would still play it. I over just adding more ramp in my deck.
Okay. Next up, Pact Weapon, 3 and a black. Artifact equipment at Mythic. As long as Pact Weapon is attached to a creature, you don't lose the game for having 0 or less life. Whenever equipped creature attacks, draw a card and reveal it. The creature gets +X/+X until end of turn, and you lose X life, where X is that card's mana value. Equip, discard a card. So Sword of Bob is what people were calling it.
Can you
That's a
equip
good
this
name.
at instant speed?
No.
No. Same timing restriction.
Then yeah, no, this isn't good. But it is cool. It's a very cool card. I like the flavor behind it. I think it's a fun one. But I think if you were able to equip this at instant speed, this would be a good card. This would be a very good card.
I mean, I think it's interesting to me. I think it's got a shot. I like the equip discarded card. That's a really low equip cost, especially when you're playing a card that allows you to refill your hand. I think that maybe its main home is going to be decks that discarding a card at will is an upside, where you can like fill your graveyard for reanimation or discard madness threats or something. I don't know. What about just as a generic equipment? You play a lot of equipment, Richard. Is this good as an equipment?
It counters itself, right? Like for that pump effect to be relevant, you want to have a Earthquake Dragon, a 15 drop on top, right? But then you're going to pay 15 life for one card, and only Saffron Olive would ever do that, right? So
That's
if
true.
you want the
No
more
problem.
realistic thing, which is like draw a land off, take 0 life, your creature didn't get pumped at all. It's just probably going to die in combat. So, and it's 4 mana. So I feel you need to abuse the first and last one, right? Like you somehow go below 0 life. Or discard it instant speed, or not instant speed, but like discard at will. But the actual Bob part of it is kind of weak. Like, do you play Bob in Commander? Like, no,
Yes,
right?
in my humans
normally.
deck.
Ooh.
I can see that, but it's very
might.
specific, right? Like, you wouldn't just put
Yeah.
a generic Bob in. Like, so I don't
No.
know that Pact
God,
Weapon really, especially a 4-mana Bob, right? That needs a combat. So yeah, I don't think it's good for generic deck, but there might be some combos with this thing.
I mean, you can like draw your entire deck with ad nauseum or whatever. That's something, like, because you can't die going to 0 less life. So it's still 4 mana, but I don't know. There's probably shenanigans with it.
Just Angel's Grace.
It's gonna feel so bad when they remove your thing in response.
I mean, that also helps get around the loss of life if you hit the Earthquake Dragon. And you can also do that if you put it on a life linker.
Just
That's
because
the
you're
other
at
thing I've
0
heard
life
people
doesn't mean you
talking
negate
about.
it. They just remove the sword and you die, right?
Yeah.
Like being at 0 doesn't mean you're good, right?
Who plays removal these days?
We are talking to Seth, who that one clash I watched him have the option to block, but he chose to take more than lethal damage in hopes of keeping a Platinum Angel. And guess what? He was immediately punished.
Sometimes you just gotta go for it. See what happens.
Okay, Mirror of Life Trapping, 4 generic artifact. When a creature ETBs, if it was cast, exile it, then return all other permanents exiled with Mirror of Life Trapping to the battlefield under their owner's control.
Okay, so this one, I have a very specific question for you. So obviously this can be like a weird Panharmonicon for the whole table, where you play a creature, you get the ETB, then it gets exiled, then everyone gets to do that. The real question is, this is one of the few cards that can actually get rid of a commander forever. If you play your commander and choose to put it in exile, and then someone blows this up before there's another creature, you don't have the option to put it back in the command zone. You already chose to put it in the exile, and it's not changing zones. So the question is, you don't have another creature to follow this up with. Do you run out your commander with this on the table and just trust that it's going to be okay? Or is this a card that's just going to keep people from playing their commanders, essentially?
I like that it lives up to the name. It could be life trapping for a commander, and I think that's hilarious. So I like it, if only for that reason. And if I see this on the board, I will definitely blow it up if you play your commander into it.
Oh, me too. Everyone will. Like, you
Yeah,
gotta
yeah.
take that chance. But
Right. So like this is a good old game of good old game of chicken here. Who's gonna play their commander into this?
I mean, would you play generic creature into this? Doesn't the same thing
yeah.
happen?
Drifter
They
into
blow
it,
it
yeah.
up and you just lost the creature?
Well, but it's not your
I mean-
commander.
yeah.
If it were my commander, I'm probably not doing it. I'll cast maybe generic creatures into this because then I can still benefit.
So if I
from
plop this down, y'all are just gonna start casting creatures into it, hoping like this.
Hey,
thing
oh,
works?
yeah.
Ooh, interesting.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think so, yeah. I don't know if I cast my commander, though.
Like even
the commander's a
non-ETB
little
creatures,
special.
non-ETB creatures, just like you actually need a creature on the battlefield, and you would just cast
I
it
mean,
into this.
What else am I gonna do?
Yeah, you kind of have to, right? Are you just gonna wait until someone kills it? I would probably
don't know.
I would probably play normally, honestly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Other
I'd
than
play
my
normal.
commander. I don't think I'd play my commander, but I think otherwise I'd play normally.
Is there some lock with this, where you can just lock out all creatures from the game?
Not that I have found, because it also gets exiled when it.
Wait, what? The mirror gets exiled? No, when a creature, if it was cast exiled, then
Oh, my-
return all other permanents.
Oh, I'm an idiot. I said that very wrong. Yeah, I don't think there's any way to. I don't think there's any way to actually lock people out of it. I mean, I guess Containment Priest maybe, because they'd be creatures entering the battlefield that weren't cast.
So Containment
So,
Priest
but-
of this is like a lock on creatures?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta keep a 2/2 on the
Until,
battlefield.
but that's until
Well,
when
I
you
don't know.
remove it, everything comes back.
People are
at
upset
once.
with
So-
people are upset with a 1/3, so I think a 2/2 is also going to be pretty difficult to deal with.
Yeah, it's true. Once it dies, then everything would come back. And if you didn't have your Containment Priest, because normally there'll only ever be one card under it, right? No, I think that's
No.
wrong.
They would all
So
go.
you have
Containment
Containment
Priest. They would
Priest.
all go there, right? Wait, what does Containment Priest actually say?
If a creature enters the battlefield, a non-token creature enters the battlefield, and if it wasn't cast, exile.
Yeah, so they
it
would get
instead.
removed from the mirror and like removed permanently. with
And go to
Containment
real
Priest.
exile.
Yeah, so there'd only be
Yeah.
one creature under the thing. Yeah, so this would actually be a good lock.
Yeah, you could play that as some sort of like really janky stack style deck.
What
Could
if
be
fun. I put all the real white stacks in there, and then how do you feel about that? It's in the perfect colors, right?
Yeah,
of colorless.
All right. Next card, Windshaper Planeter. 4 and a white, 4/4, creature angel, flash flying. When it ETBs during declare attacker step, for each attacking creature, you may reselect which player or planeswalker that creature is attacking.
is this good?
I think
Like its floor's a fog, right? It fogs for you at least. Like you get to redirect everything. So worst case, you prevent all the damage. Best case, maybe you slam some little creatures into someone who has big creatures and they trade off, or you deal some damage to someone. But it's also 5 mana. This card, I've really been on the fence. Like, do I just jam this in every deck to mess with people, or is it too underpowered?
I love my gotcha cards, and to me, this kind of looks like Tobias Funke from Arrested Development with Angel Wings. So, like when you put it that way,
can't
like
unsee this. Why, Chris?
yeah, like,
Yeah,
that's David Cross on the card, and I'm letting y'all know that now.
he blew himself, that's for sure.
Exactly. And with that in mind, it made me love this card, but I don't know if this is a generic card, right?
The problem is it's 5 mana. Like if you could actually cast
Yeah.
it at will, it's a hilarious. Like someone Crater Hoofs, like you can just redirect it wherever you want, right? Except for the
Unless
original
you're the
attacker.
only other person.
Yeah, so like you can murder people quite easily here, right? Like
Yeah.
just being able to control combat. The problem is it's 5 mana, so you're gonna hold 5 mana for the ability to do this. So that one is a little awkward. So angel decks definitely, but generic deck, like hilarious troll card, but is it good? Or should you hold up mana to like do this?
I mean,
It's a lot.
5 mana to windmill slam Tobias Funke. Yeah, I would pay 5 mana. I would do that.
I mean, plus Crim, in Crim decks, it might be even better because Crim loves leaving up mana. So there's not much of a
Yeah,
downside.
but he removes
in a
all
Crim,
creatures.
like-
What are people gonna attack with?
yeah, I guess that's also true. I'd play it in Angels for sure. I don't think I jam in just any deck, but I don't know. Probably some non-Angel decks. I do think it'll be fun to resolve. Like I want to resolve it because it just seems like so chaotic, and like when you actually get it down at the right time, it seems very powerful. Question is, do you want to leave up 5 mana all the time? And most decks don't.
Yes.
Unless you're Crim, then most decks do.
Yes, I do want all my decks leave up.
All right, last card, Cut a Deal. So I went to the future and pulled so many fish mail, and everyone's asking about Cut a Deal. So 2 and a white sorcery. Each opponent draws a card. Then you draw a card for each opponent who drew this way. So basically, Secret Rendezvous, but spread out. Your opponents each draw 1 card. For 3 total, you draw 3 cards. Is it better or worse than Secret Rendezvous? And I think it is worse than Secret Rendezvous, although still very good. So you would play both. But Secret Rendezvous allows you to concentrate the cards where it's most valuable for you. So someone who can't use the cards or a friend. This card will give cards to the people you're most afraid of, right? Or, if you're a creature deck, there's a control deck or something, they're getting a card. You don't want that. You want to give the cards to a miserable buddy like you. So I think Secret Rendezvous is better. What do you guys think?
I think the card is a little bit poo-poo, but
it's 3 mana, draw 3, Chris.
there's a better card. I think there's actually a better card in this set that I think you would actually enjoy.
The Divination.
Which is... Yeah, your temple is under attack, right?
Yep.
That's actually better because it's instant speed. And it also doubles back as a way to protect your stuff. So I really like that spell over both Secret Rendezvous and the one that just was mentioned.
I think Cut a Deal is definitely worse than Secret Rendezvous for the reasons Richard said. A big part of the power of Secret Rendezvous is you do have a lot of control over it. You give it to the mana screwed Crim, who what's he going to do with his cards? Or you give it to someone not without lands, you aren't. Or you give it to someone who you can make a friend out of and get a favor for later. And you can't really do this with Cut a Deal. That said, I'm warming up to it being something that I would play in a lot of white decks. When I first read it, I was kind of like, oh, I don't want to benefit the person that's ahead. I prefer cards that I can control and only benefit one opponent rather than benefit the whole table. Then you're kind of a group hug card. But still, to draw 3 for 3, it's only 1 card to each opponent. I guess in some ways it's nice that it's spread out. No one's getting a huge advantage out of it except for you. So I do think it's probably worth playing. Although if we keep getting more and more Secret Rendezvous, like the one Crim mentioned, your temple is under attack, maybe you just don't even need this and you can just play all Secret Rendezvous effects and be happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, they printed 2 in the same set. So Wizards clearly thinks this effect is trash and white needs more. So they're going to keep making them. But as of now, I play all of them. They're all good. This one is not even if you give your arch enemy a card, table wise, right? The table went up 5, arch enemy went up 1. So you're still you're still coming out ahead, right? So it's not that bad in that case, right? So it's still a really good card. And, when we get 8 of these effects, I guess we can start ranking them to see which ones you play. But I actually put Secret Rendezvous first, and then your temple's under attack, and then Cut a Deal. 3 mana draw 3 is where it's at, right? A divination is whatever, right? A divination, all colors have access to. But a 3 mana draw 3
is so much better than a divination.
It is.
Okay.
It's a flex card, right? But for raw card draw, I think Secret Rendezvous is that's 6 cards, right? 3 for you, 3 for a friend, or 3 for you and 3 for an opponent, right? So I like Secret Rendezvous still, but I can see the argument. But I can't see why anyone would say Cut a Deal is better than Rendezvous. When I read the Reddit thread, I was very confused why people thought this was fixed Secret Rendezvous. And I still don't understand it after reading all the comments.
I think that people just don't understand the power of politics in Commander. I think that's got to be what it comes down to, the upside of giving another player something. That's actually really, really powerful, and it's a upside rather than a downside. I just don't think
you can play on mute and have 0 deals, and Secret Rendezvous is still much stronger, right? You just give the person whose cards are ineffective against you, right? They can have all the cards they want, they do nothing, right? Yeah. All right. So I think that's all the previews we wanted to get over. So check out mtgpreviews.com. This week we're getting the Commander precon. So we're still not done. We're still not done with Baldur's Gate. More cards coming.
Yeah, those will be coming out today and tomorrow, and then we actually will have the full set. So before we get to fish mail, a couple other really quick topics. One is They announced that Commander Legends Battle for Baldur Gate not coming to Magic Online. This is the first time in quite a while there's been a set like this that just did not show up on the client altogether. They're going to release some cards through treasure chests. Not super excited for that, just because the last few sets, when they say that, it's been a very small number of cards, and mostly not the exciting ones that might be hard to program. It's the boring, easy ones, and only a few of them. What do you guys think about the fact that this set, the first one did come to Moto, but what do you think about this set not coming to Magic Online?
The technology's just not there yet.
Funny, it is there. They actually did the first Baldur's Gate, so they actually can do Commander, or the first Commander Legends. They can actually do Commander Draft, but I think their reasoning is like, no one played it, we made no money, so we're not going to invest the money to make this draftable format on Moto, which I can respect. This follows all supplemental products. Basically, if something is legacy playable, they might add it eventually in a treasure chest. But other than that, they're just going to add a few cards. It's a little sad because there's so many like playable cards here, like especially at the lower rarities, that you can make a really sweet budget deck or whatever, right? But you're not going to be able to play with them. So I'm still waiting for a Chaosmancer's map. Like it's like 8 sets old or something at this point, but it's not happening.
I'm not like super disappointed that the draft format isn't there, although I'm sure that matters to some other people. But I'm mostly disappointed that the cards just aren't going to be there to play with in Commander. That's one of my disappointments with current Magic, is Commander is so popular, but Wizards has just not really figured out a good way to let people play it online. It doesn't exist on Arena. Moto, it exists, but they're not putting on these new exciting cards, so then you got that downside. I guess you got Spell Table, but that comes with its own issues with Gontis and various things. So yeah, I hope they figure that out. Whether it's Magic Online or not, I do think that everyone would benefit from a better way of playing Commander, from the comfort of your own home online.
Well, Baldur's Gate's coming on Magic Arena, right?
Sort of. It's coming. Speaking, that was our other quick topic. We have an alchemy set for Commander Legends Baldur Gate. We don't really know what that means yet. We know it'll have some cards from the set, some digital only cards, some remix versions of cards from the set. So we'll see exactly how much of it we get on Arena. The more important news, though, is Wizards announced some economic improvements for Alchemy on Arena. 2 of them, which are not super huge improvements, but they are improvements. One of them is there's going to be a draft format where one of the cards in the pack is going to be an Alchemy card. So you draft Streets of New Capenna, but with a little Alchemy mixed in. So a way you can get Alchemy cards without just spending your wild cards. You can do it through Limited. The other news was they're going to make less rares in Alchemy and more uncommons in Alchemy, which is an improvement. We'll see how the numbers shake out. Do they make, 2 less rares and 2 more uncommons, or is it actually a big shift for like 10 less rares, 10 more uncommons? That would actually be a pretty big deal. Do you guys think this is going to change anything? We got this huge Alchemy release coming up. There's no standard set until September. Wizards wants people to play Alchemy this summer. Is this going to work? Do these changes change anything?
I don't think so, because I kind of had this discussion on my stream and whatnot, and I at first, yes, the economy is a big part of this, why people just won't play, because if anything happens, you should get your wild cards back. I fully agree. The economy is absolutely awful when it comes to Alchemy, but first off, I don't know if this is enough of a fix. I still think that they need to somehow find a way to just pretty much make the next 4 Alchemy sets all uncommons. And then maybe, right? But like, there's also on top of that, there's the additional part that Magic players just don't like digital cards. They just don't like digital cards. Like, it is blasphemy to the game, to most people. So that play Magic, and that's fine. I mean, like, but that just means that Magic itself will just can't really explore the digital space, because I just don't think people will enjoy it.
Yeah, I think the damage is done. Like, if you're a new player and you're like, oh, what is this Alchemy thing? Let me go on YouTube and, search it. And you search Alchemy. And then the top 10 results are people complaining about Alchemy based on outdated information, because Alchemy has changed by now. Like, it's too late, right? Like, the PR damage is out there. It has a bad rap. I don't know how they could fix it. So I feel it's too little too late. And it's not even like it's that generous, right? It's just like slightly better. Like, I think they would have to make it free and then see if people actually play it. But so like I think the slight improvement won't make people bust out their wallets and play Alchemy. So, but you never know. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think Wizards needs to take more drastic action to try to save the format. And I was thinking the same thing. Like, rather than like, oh, we're gonna cut back a few rares and add some more uncommons, which is undoubtedly an improvement. I don't want to poo-poo it or whatever, but I think that if they really want a chance to save this format, they do need to do something like, we're just giving everyone Streets of New Capenna Alchemy. Everyone, those cards are going in your collection. We want you to check out this format, play these new cards on us. Maybe something like that could get people to try the format, get people invested in the format, get them coming back for the next release. And then Wizards could start, hopefully in a more generous way, with more uncommons, all uncommons, however they do it. Maybe that would have a chance. So I think that these changes, while definitely positive, are just so small that I think that, as Richard said, and Krim also said, the damage is done at this point, and I don't think it's going to be enough to get people to start really actively playing the format. Anyway, I think those were all of our topics. We got a couple minutes. Richard, maybe we can do a fish mail or two.
All right. If you have questions, send them to @MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail. We'll get to your questions on air. What Are You Doing 17. I know Wizards playtesting is a bit of an oxymoron, but how much of the process do y'all know? Have they ever asked you to do playtesting? I'll admit I tested companions and it felt hard to assess them in a vacuum.
Ooh, well, I didn't know that Wizards had non-Wizards people do playtesting at this point. I know in the early days of Magic, it was kind of like that, where there were random groups of people who do playtesting. I've never playtested cards before they were released, and I didn't even realize that was something that commonly happened. I've heard a few stories of like people on the RC for Commander having input on some Commander sets or whatever, but yeah, I've never got to play with cards early, and I honestly don't know, outside of them having a playtest team that they created a few years ago, the play design team, which part of their job is to playtest stuff. I really don't know the ins and outs of their playtesting process.
Yeah, I think this is tough. I think like it's impossible for a team to do it. Like if you really want to balance the format, you need like a beta or something like that, right? But then if you play all the cards in the beta, why would you play the real thing? Like that's kind of the problem. But like there's just no way, right? And we know how the metagame moves based on like pro players and secret tech that comes out and whatnot. So I think it's actually kind of impossible, but I do think they should do a better job. Like they've had quite a few misses in the most recent years. So I don't know what the compromise is, but other games do this with a beta test. And maybe they just do a client with no art, change all the card names, and you just play random faceless cards. And that's how they test power level and stuff. But I don't know.
That sounds painful.
Corel_, how many cards do you think a digital client can be missing before a format should be renamed? For example, Pioneer and Explorer on Arena, and then Commander on Moto is getting close.
That's so true.
Commander? Should we rename Commander Clash?
I mean, honestly, okay. Right before, as we're filming this, we are recording a Commander Clash, right? Right after this. And the thing here is I was building my deck, right, that I had in paper. And I was like, okay, I'm playing this in paper. It's one of my new decks. Can't wait. I'm going to try it out on Clash. Go to Card Hoarder. Look at my thing online, and there's like 30 red outlines from all the cards. I'm like, am I mono red? What is this? Like, what happened? Where's my deck? So, Corel is not exactly wrong here. I mean, pretty soon, I don't know, we can call it a middle-sized leaders. How about that? Middle-sized leaders.
I don't know where the cutoff is, honestly. Like, how many cards it takes for it to be different. I feel like Commander on Magic Online feels like Commander to me. I know there's some stuff missing, and maybe it's partly because it's a casual format, so replacing stuff isn't as painful necessarily as if you didn't have a Ragavan for Modern. That's really going to change the decks that you can play. When in Commander, if you don't have a Osgir for a while, well, then I guess you're not playing an Osgir deck, but you can just play another Boros deck. So as frustrating as it is that we don't get all the cards, it still feels like Commander. I think that the differences between Pioneer and Explorer definitely deserve to have the formats have different names though at this point. Like I think that was correct. And I would assume you have to pretty much have at least all the top tier decks on the client and most of the cards before you can change the name over. If there's, some random, like the set specific version of Disenchant that we get every set, and most of them are not going to see play because they're strictly worse than the best version. Like if all of those cards don't make it, I'd be fine with still calling it Pioneer, but I think it's got to be pretty close. You gotta be pretty close if you're going to use the same name.
Yeah, I think Commander is actually getting there though. Like we were missing staples for a while, like Cursed Mirror, Archaeomancer's map is still missing. So at some point it will diverge, but hopefully we never see that. Like, if it's a handful of cards, fine. But can you imagine if like Teferi's Protection or something like never made it on? Like you're kind of playing a different format, right? So we'll see with Commander Legends too what they put on and like what staples are missing in the long run. But at some point it will be different. I think for Commander though, the pool is so deep it's not as relevant. Plus, like, what are you gonna do? Like not play it? Like there's no other place to play it, right? So that is also a consideration. All right, so thank you for all the questions people sent in. If you have questions, send them to @MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail, and we'll get to your questions on air.
And I believe that brings us to the end of episode 383 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. So Richard Krim, thanks for hanging out. Thanks to everyone for listening. Thanks to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And we'll be back next week to talk about whatever goes on in the world of Magic. So until then, have a lovely week, everyone. And this is a crew signing out.